Hey everybody, this is Brad Dake saying hi to you. How you doing? Hope everybody's having fun. The reason why I'm reaching out to you today is about the fact that I'm at 90 days totally dedicated on a Mint Linux OS environment on my Dual Xeon Series X10 DL platform. And it's my primary workstation. It's got 48 cores and roughly about just short of 100 gigs of capacity. And I have surprisingly found out that I've reached my 96 gigabytes of capacity in RAM in dealing and working with Mint, which is a small milestone because you could never accomplish that truly with a Microsoft environment the way that they built Windows 10, Windows 11. So 90 days into the equation, I had to realize that I wanted to pick a Linux OS that's OA compliant. That's often Office Automated style operating system. And what that refers to is that what a daily user would incur in the office environment in regards to trying to do their daily work, may it be email communication, messaging, and so on and so on. The processes that are in that equation dictate basically daily use. That's the real goal. You just want to have a Linux environment that does genuinely come in and quasi replaces Microsoft's operating system, but has the same feel and access that Microsoft Office, Microsoft um, Windows environments, Microsoft secondary tools like Visio and so on, which are productivity tools used in the Office environment, to make sure that they are very similar in function in the Linux environment. Now, this is where Linux really does fail in a big way, in many ways, actually. Linux is trying to introduce to you kind of a different way and be a power user. But yet they kind of make it look like I'm kind of like Windows, but I'm not. And that's the carrot. It hangs out there. You look at it, and then you get into the environment on most of them. Pop Linux is a good example of that. Ubuntu, SUSE, Linux, and so on. They get you in the door, but then you begin to go into the applications and daily stuff, and it's like, oh my gosh, I have to learn everything from the ground up. You're a veteran in IT, but it's the names and the naming aspects that throw you for a loop. In other words, Pentac or GSAC or GText and things like that are the words you see in Linux opposed to editor, text editor. Um, basically, write, as in, basically a TXT file, which is the Microsoft Write application. So the 90 days that I've been doing this, I've been wearing both my basic user hat and my advanced user hat, just short of a sysadmin. And I'm looking at this and I'm saying, okay, I'm seeing some real bumps here. Then I came across Mint. Now, Mint has done something, but it does it even better when you put the Plasma KDE desktop on top of that operating deployment. The Mint Linux version, which I think is currently at version 21, um, has streamlined some of these processes, but it's still not quite there yet. So some of the big asks that I see immediately that I think is valuable is a better name to description tasking in both discovery and into the actual start button, go up and do a search. When you're looking at gedit or a ktac or carspot or kpart or things like that, that doesn't mean much to a new user. They're used to partition manager, they're used to disk manager, they're used to the terminology that's prevalent, and that's something that I would love to see in Mint version whatever next rev. That isn't really there today. So when I have to go looking for an application for instance, Kpot, that's a basically a disk partition management tool. I want to be able to type in disk partition, right, or Kpart, um, and or combination of the two in the search, and that it will bring me everything in there. It does kind of do it, but it's doing it only if the application code is written for it. It would be really great if Mint can say, hey guys, every single standard out there now will be descriptive header CL in the API or into the application along with the ID title. So when you go out and you install this application and you forgot about it, because that's the second thing that happens, that would be really nice to have out there, and that is breaking out these tools in a more task by execution opposed to groupings of system tools or office tools. I mean, what would be great would be a system tools disk management tools folder, and I can go boom boom boom, put it right in there. There are the 3 tools that one of those should be what I need. So it's a path follow through. You have that kind of functionality out there that would really help break those tools down a little bit better by classification. Not probably too easy to do. It might be something more progressive, but it does definitely speed finding what you need to find so that you can be in OA mode for the basic user's needs. The other thing that I think is really valuable is that Mint does indirectly give you the ability of looking at your resources, but it doesn't give you that task manager Control-Alt-Delete. I want to bring it right up. And that would be the principal OS task and status and so on manager. I use a third-party tool to do this today, but as a power user, not as a standard user, I want to get in there and I need to look at something and I want to go between the processor, the memory, the task, the application, or the API and make that quick 1, 2, 3 in 3 simple steps. Today you can't do that. You have to go down to the start button, bring up, type in your search tool, try to find which particular task like management tool you want to find, bring it up, and then search through it to find what you want, because the base mon tool is not that easy. Microsoft did get it right with the task manager. Something that can be taught back over toward the Mint Linux side, where instead of trying to compress everything into values by IDs, when you have more than 12 processors, that's useless. It's just garbly-gook, lots of squiggly lines. You really can't break that down. But if you break them out into their containers, as in each core breakout, you can actually see and do visual comparisons of how really your cores are getting utilized. That would be a really good benefit in regards to Mint Linux, its core task management application. It doing that to make it cleaner, easier, more consecutive in regards to what you're trying to do. The other thing that would be really advantageous with Mint Linux is a services monitor that works more like you drag and drop your icons. For instance, I am using a Microsoft Variant Office Tool X, and I've got Monitor running, and I've got Apache running for a small web count server, and I need to monitor my NICs to make sure that if I'm load balancing, I know what's going on, and so on and so on. Basically, there was a wonderful tool out there called What's Up Gold, and it worked on SNMP up, which means if you got TCP or IP and or SMP, you can pretty much bring anything in, put it on a chart, put it on a green to red level alert status, and you can record the SNMP traffic and even associate executions to it, and so on and so on. Well, the end result is that this tool creates a graphical representation of your system services functions and so on. And we do a lot with our machines, especially if we're on Xeon platforms. We're most likely running a pageant service, or we might have a game simulation stack out there. We might have Apache running with a subservice. We could have an Apache tool which is monitoring the Raspberry Pi footprints that you've got out there. DNS monitors, just things like that. You can bring all those in and you can make sure that they're not incurring issues. They get notifications. They all talk on one principle, and that is on an IP-based TCP/SNMP protocol. You can put it into this window, and that's really cool. Also, you can put inside this window your remote resources. In other words, hey, I need my file services. I need my Plex. I need this. I need that, and I need this. And I know that there are tests like DeskY.to. They're out there. They're APIs on a web-based model that you could put on, let's say, a Commigene deployment or a Tiro deployment, or even your own virtual machine deployment, and that does kind of work. Um, Very complicated. I don't. It never was complicated in the beginning. Today's, there's a lot of over engineering to try to get the same thing that was very easy to do in the past. So it would be really great if Mint 23 or Mint 24 would have such an easy display style tool. It doesn't have to be fancy. It's just basically taking some basic telemetry from your local machine or from machines that you rely on for your local machine, and just to kind of give you a health report on overall how things are going. This can also be done for like making sure my ISP is up and running. Do I have my bandwidths? Am I hitting a bandwidth test site? And can I hit DNN's binds, or can I hit, other places? You can make this into a great, awesome tool to make sure you have a healthy status of what you got. One last really excellent tool that would be present, and I'm a big fan of this, because your hardware is only as good as the software that's written for it can use it. And that predicates to everything from proper direct memory addressing to bandwidth allocations and my bus rates between point A and point Z, and so on and so on. So you can download like 20 different tools out there to accomplish this, but one really great potential tool that would be excellent to add to this equation for Mint, and could be Mint's completely, nobody else's, is a simple tool that shows allocations and bandwidths. In other words, the NIC transfer rates, the disk transfer rates, the USB base transfer rates, processor handling, but you're not doing this based on like a netmon or task managed performance management kind of thing. You're not doing that at all. This is actually a status line. This is your baseline of your machine's daily abilities, 1, 2, 3s, and so on. Now, what does that mean? Well, 90%, maybe 70% of the Mint users that are coming over and starting to adopt Mint want to know how their hardware is progressing versus their software, and when is it time to buy the next whatever. This baseline, which is better than doing like crystal reports, diagnostics, or disk crystal or anything like that. This basically says, hey, your daily operational bandwidths are blank, 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 blank. Here's your network, here's your I/O, here's your disk, here's your processor, and so on and so on and so on. It's your baseline. And when you go into the baseline tool, then as a professional admin, I will go out there and I'll pull down a performance tool that's going to show, okay, I'm going to plug in my SSDs, but what are my baselines? Oh yeah, here they are. There they all are. Very simple, one-pager kind of setup, not complicated. It just basically has everything allocated. Here's your GPU, here's your RAM, here's your CPU, here's your disk I/O, here's your SSD, your NVMe, your base bus or your PCIe base performance specs, and so on. And it comes in and it just gives you these base numbers. Then your performance tool comes in. Let's say you're playing with disks, and you can hit those and really hammer those disk values because you put in a new controller that's tweaked out for NVMe capacity. Now, wow, look at the baseline versus the performance matrix. But more importantly, you can also use the baseline to determine if you have deterioration of health in heat sinks. Are they working right? Are my processors getting cool enough? Are they staying cool enough? Are they doing what needs to be done? You can actually see processor degradation, maybe an NPU, a CPU, a GPU, and so on. That can happen, because electronics do eventually fail, and no operating system ever has been bold enough to do this, because when I start to see remaps on storage, how do I know that happened? Well, my baseline's saying I'm starting to degrade. Okay, SSDs fail differently than spinning hard disks. Remember that. That's an important detail to remember, because when it starts to degrade, when it starts to rewrite data to other sectors inside the SSD chassis that is usable while the other side is starting to degrade, your fragmentation model of your disk begins to expand out, and so therefore your disk I/O will contract. So that's just a reality check, and it would be nice to have that console like simple display screen. Hey, your current deployment with your kernel and everything is here. It is. Here are all my performance markers and so on. Now, again, I reiterate, there are 4 things that I asked for that I think would be very valuable to Mint to improve it. If you guys have suggestions, please make them. I'm only doing this based on the OS level, not at the application level. Better relationships of unknown foreign names to actual tasks, better directory services search to break them out so the tasks are more uniform in the directory structure. Um, a centralized task manager, very similar to kind of the way the performance monitor works for, not correction, the task performance tab that works for Microsoft Windows 11. Would be feasible for something for Mint in the same kind of logical breakout model. And of course, here are your baseline specs for what you've got today with your current environment setups. So those are the things that which I wanted to bring up to the table here at my 90-day evaluation. I'm getting more comfortable with the names, but guys and gals who do all of the coding and processing and all that, I get it. Zigger Zagger is not value to the nature of a network monitoring tool. Try to appreciate why that comes up, because you know what? It can actually streamline people finding what you have and what you've written, and we can use it more often. So anyways, I'm going to let you go. God bless. I hope you guys like. If you do, please hit the like button and have a great weekend.